What's up, y'all? It's Corbin again. And I'm not saying welcome to the NBA Aficionado podcast or welcome to the Roundball Ramble podcast because I took an episode where I rebranded to the NBA Aficionado podcast, right? And I'm not going to lie. I'm going to walk that back a little bit because I am the NBA Aficionado and the WNBA Aficionado and the Big Three Aficionado. Like, that's who I am, right? Roundball Ramble, at its core, is still a show where I ramble about the Roundball. It was a play on Roundball Rock. If you listen to the NBA and NBC theme song back in the day, or listen to it now on YouTube, that is what the name of the song is. I thought it was a cool twist on that name. And you know what? It still is. And I think in trying to change the name of the show, I was trying to rebrand to a more serious, deep dive focus. And I thought about it, and I realized that I could still change it to a serious deep dive focus while still keeping the original name of the show. And so that's what I'm going to do for this season. Now, next season, if you're the NBA Aficionado podcast, you already know what it is. But for right now, I say again, hello. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Corbin. You can follow me on Twitter at CorbinNBA, same on Instagram. And welcome to yet another episode of the Roundball Ramble podcast. We are part of the Sports Ethos family of podcasts, so definitely check out Sports Ethos on Twitter at Sports Ethos, SPORTSETHOS, online, sportsethos.com. Pretty simple, already said it. I am pumped to get back to the bread and butter of this show. Recapping the previous night's action, looking forward to today's current slate of games, celebrating the birthdays of NBA and WNBA players, both current and former, and giving them their moments in the sun. Playing some of the new daily basketball kind of games that have popped up since I've done the show regularly, namely Pirtle, the NBA naming game, as well as the Play Swoops, a GM challenge, which, if you've ever played the build a roster with $15 from this XYZ player, that's what that is. And I'm excited to kind of work that through with y'all here as well. Also incorporate some fun trades and such that I see on Twitter, give my takes, ask for y'all's, you know how it goes. So that's going to be coming real soon. I am excited for that. But right now, it's been a minute since we've been on here regularly. Some stuff is caught up. You know, I'm set back 2 weeks of NBA basketball in terms of daily recaps and the like. So we're just going to do a week 2 takeaway. I made some bold claims on what I thought the season was going to be like so far. Let's base that off of what's actually going on and get up to speed for the regular show. So sit back, relax, and settle in for some Roundball Ramble. Make it positive, what you do. Everybody don't respect the shoe, but the one in front of the gun lives forever. The one for the gun. And I've been hustling all day, this away, that away, through canals and alleyways, just to say, money trees is the perfect place. I can't believe we're already in November, and it's been 2 weeks in the NBA season. It's kind of crazy to me. Feels like all summer I was like, cannot wait for the season to start. Cannot wait for the season to start. What am I supposed to do? In retrospect, there was a lot of things I could have done. But I got a lot of basketball GMing. You know, I actually got a break from basketball, which at first you could have told me this in, I don't know, let's say just before this past summer, I would have thought that was ridiculous. A break from basketball, like, ball is life, let's go. But nah, it was really, really good to take some time away. I almost thought about leaving altogether. I was kind of like, you know what, this has been a fun deal, but yeah, I wanted to kind of reassess, take a little bit of time. I think I did enough to realize that, hey, you know, I still want to do this in some capacity, and this is the only outlet that I have right now at my disposal. So let's keep going at it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was nice to focus more on family. I mean, I still play basketball video game. The basketball GM, y'all know I love that game. So I still did that. Brought my Lakers a couple championships. You know how it goes. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting summer. I'm away from basketball. And then all of a sudden, all at once, boom, we're right back in the thick of it. You know, Lakers, Warriors, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, all the drama in Brooklyn. newsflash, there's still drama in Brooklyn. Just all sorts of stuff. And so it's funny that, yeah, by the time this drops, we will be officially in week 2 of the NBA season. And already so much has happened, and also not a whole lot at all, it feels like. We got to start where I really don't want to start, but we have to start in Brooklyn. So, Brooklyn is in turmoil right now. Yesterday, they fired head coach Steve Nash after, a pretty pathetic start that I still feel he is going to take an outsized portion of the blame for. But, I mean, let's face it, the Brooklyn Nets have just not been a good basketball team. And when you're a team led with two star talents in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you expect to be better than 13th in the Eastern Conference. It kind of just is what it is there. However, that doesn't mean that it's right. And for a team with championship expectations like the Brooklyn Nets have, being 2-5, 2-6 now, they lost the game following the dismissal of Nash to the Chicago Bulls 108-99 behind a massive fourth quarter onslaught by Zach LaVine. But being 2-6 isn't in the cards. But the Brooklyn Nets as a franchise, a lot of things hasn't been in the cards for them recently. Of course, Kyrie Irving in his latest social media escapades. I don't even know the words to describe what the last couple of days have been like concerning Kyrie sharing a movie that was laden with dangerous tropes a couple of days ago here on Twitter, and the outrage and response that people have had against that. And for the most part, those people have bigger platforms than I do. They've spoken more eloquently on the situation than I can. And just to be totally frank with you, there's no new ground being broken here. I feel like when it comes to Kyrie and other polarizing figures, and maybe it's just a media thing, but you can't bring up that person's latest mishaps or whatever the case may be without bringing up everything that came before that. So right now, Kyrie and the video he shared on social media is being discussed and talked about in terms of how dangerous that was for him to share and why he shouldn't, and whether his apology is actually an apology and how heartfelt he is and what steps he's going to make to that. But you also have folks going from this latest incident to looking back to Kyrie and the New World Order video they shared by Alex Jones, which I don't have to say any of this stuff is irresponsible and reckless, because it is, but here I am as a prerequisite, right? So you have that being brought up, and then you have his refusal to take the COVID vaccination last season being brought up, and then you have his believing the earth is flat from a couple years ago being brought up. So all this stuff is just being regurgitated again and again and again, and I'm kind of over it, to be honest with you. Like, I get it, until there is a discipline or a reaction from Kyrie that is new. I don't see what there is to add to this, in my opinion, for me, myself. Like I said, there has been so many pieces and podcasts and articles written about it that written and recorded about it that I really don't have to add anything in that way. But I will say one thing. I just because I haven't seen a lot of this on social media and I have been looking, is the link that Kyrie shared to this video with the dangerous tropes. A lot has been made on Kyrie for sharing that, for influencing all of his followers on Twitter and Instagram. I get it. A lot of people can have impact and are impacted by the things that he shares. What I'm curious about is that the link that he just took down after having it on for quite a few more days than I thought he would, was a link to Amazon. Yes, Amazon is one of the biggest retailers in the world. Right up there with Walmart, if not the biggest. And they are promoting, or not promoting, but they have this video with these dangerous tropes that affect a lot of people available for sale. Where is the outcry and outrage on a seller like Amazon for having that so easily accessible? It's not like Kyrie tweeted a link from a little-known YouTube video. It's not like Kyrie, had on the inventor of this video for like a think piece or anything. No, he got a link from Amazon, one of the biggest retailers in the world, and it's just as simple as clicking on that and you obtaining one of those discs or books for yourself. I just haven't seen that same energy toward Amazon for having that available like that. If it being as dangerous as it is, also being as easily accessible. Amazon Prime, get it the next day. So where is the word on that? I've been looking and I haven't seen it. The closest I've got to is one tweet that basically said it goes out saying that Amazon shouldn't have it. But that's the thing. It doesn't go without saying because no one's saying it. And no one saying it doesn't make it go away. I don't understand that logic there. Because it doesn't go without saying. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. You absolutely have to say it. So they absolutely can take it off of their inventory, off of their website, if it's a huge deal as it seems to be. Because otherwise, it's all on Kyrie for sharing it, and I get the outrage there. But again, this wasn't a little known link. This wasn't a StreamYard or a SoundCloud or anything like that. This was Amazon. Is it easier to hate on Kyrie than Jeff Bezos? I don't know. I don't know. And this is all an open-ended question. I'm just wondering where the energy is for that. That's all. It just seemed like a question to ask because I haven't seen it, and I was just curious. But that's all I got to say about that. Listen, y'all, Brooklyn is just, it's not just Kyrie, although a lot of it is Kyrie right now. It's the fact that, like I mentioned, the defense is horrific. Ben Simmons is either hobbled or mentally not the same player, or both. And listen, not being the same player, he's had a year off basketball, right? And a lot of social media has been tagging him things. He airballs a layup. It's on Sports Illustrated the next day. He misses 7, jumpers or whatever. There's a compilation of it on YouTube. Like, that stuff can mess with your head. It definitely can. Listen, I'm nowhere near a pro athlete, but I feel like in high school I played decently well. I would consider myself like a jack of all trades kind of player. Decent shooter. I think I shot like 34% from 3 in high school. But I played like a Sean Marion in my mind, and I definitely had a jump shot like Sean Marion. I just never grew out of it. Starts at the base to come up from my chest, legs stick out. It was pretty effective. I'd say it's a cross between a Sean Marion and a Kevin Martin. And I kept that shot. And my coach tried to shoot me out of it, and I couldn't. It was just a shot I felt comfortable taking, and I made it at a pretty decent clip that I kept going, right? Well, I made 2 All-Star games during my high school career. And one of those high school games was fine, played well, whatever the case may be. The second one, I remember succinctly because it had a profound impact on me. I was shooting around, we're doing our shoot arounds, and I went to take a break to kind of, sit down, retie my shoes, lace them up, whatever. And one of the guys went up and shot a jump shot, and one of them goes, "That's a ugly jump shot. Oh my God." And I remember going, "Oh." And like, it was almost as if for the first time, and I'd heard comments here and there about my shot from other people, but it was usually opponents I'm playing, and with the shot going in, what you gonna say to make me kind of like, you can't say nothing to faze me. Of course you're gonna say something. But at that moment, I remember exactly when I was like, whoa, like, yeah, my shot don't look pretty. Like, shoot, maybe I shouldn't be shooting that shot. Like, it threw me off my game. It was that one innocuous comment to somebody else that threw me off my entire game. After that, your boy was petrified to shoot before games. Cause I want people to see how my shot looked before I played. I changed the way I played. I'd have wide open threes, but I want to see them uncork this sidewinder shot, or should I just attack the basket and kick for a closeout? Like, it changed the way I was. And this was like, what, senior year? It really messed with me. And mind you, I still got the same shot. I'm a lot more confident in it now because, one, I've seen some ugly jumpers since then. I'm looking at Lonzo Ball. I'm looking at Cameron Payne. I'm looking at a few guys that might could fit in among the ranks. But also, I feel like I'm more mature in a different headspace. And the maturity is just high school teasing or high school comments and, oh my gosh, it's going to be big because high school. That's one thing altogether. That doesn't apply to Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, by all accounts, except for some thoughts here and there for how he's conducted himself over the past couple of seasons, is a mature individual. It's all about the headspace. If you don't feel comfortable being an offensive weapon because you still have the yips from, passing up an open dunk to get Matisse Thybulle the ball 2 years ago in the playoffs. Like, that probably hasn't gone away, which is why when Kyrie drives to the basket and kicks a pass out to Ben Simmons to finish, instead of finishing over the top, he's trying to pass the ball behind him to give it to Kevin Durant for a jumper. Like, yes, is it the right basketball play? No. Is it easier to finish at the rim? Yes, but in your headspace, like, if it's not in a good space or you don't feel comfortable doing that, you're not going to do that. And so, I support Ben Simmons 100% as he tries to get back to the player averaging 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, doing it all, impacting the game on all levels, not just being a screener and a passer, not just being someone who plays at the dunker spot, but somebody who also can finish at the basket, had a little bit of a hook shot, even uncorked a mid-range J, ugly as it was every once in a while. Like, I'm rooting for that player to come back. But as of right now, it's just hoping that he can get back to that form. The unfortunate thing is that the Brooklyn Nets are so top-heavy in terms of star talent that Ben Simmons, who, remember, was traded for James Harden, was supposed to be that player. And even though he's trying to find his way to being that player, the Brooklyn Nets need him to be there a little bit faster. 4, 6, and 8 isn't going to do it for them. Not when you're losing by 10 points because your defense sucks. Ben Simmons has fouled out a couple of games. That's another underrated kind of part of his struggle so far. It's not even that underrated. It's just part of his struggle so far. Kyrie and KD have an outsized role in the offense. Joe Harris still trying to find his way back from injury. Seth Curry still trying to find his way back from injury. Royce O'Neal's been solid, but isn't really the regular offensive contributor that the Nets need right now. And defensively, they can't hold water. They just can't right now. Teams are just going bananas on them. You've had teams like Indiana. Ben Mathurin went off for a career high. And we're talking wide open spot up threes from the corner pocket. Like, we ain't even talking like, I'm really working to get my offense together with the outstretched hands of a defender. Now I'm talking get the ball, quick warm-up dribble. All right, set my feet. We got a 3. That was Indiana. Chicago, Zach LaVine just made mincemeat out of them. Milwaukee. Listen, Giannis is a tough cover to begin with, but Giannis had 40 plus, dang near 20 rebounds. And it wasn't just him cooking. It was other Milwaukee Bucks as well because Brooklyn couldn't stop a soul. Those are the issues right now that their new coach will have to deal with. And who will their new coach be? You would think after just the firestorm that the Brooklyn Nets have had to endure in the media due to their own poor play, due to the Kyrie Irving saga, due to everything that's swirled around since KD demanded and then rescinded his trade request, you would think that you would go for a stable coach who has been around for a bit, cool, level-headed demeanor, someone who doesn't have any skeletons in his closet, that you can definitely move forward with without bringing a new array of questions concerning conduct and character, and just focus on riding this Brooklyn ship and getting them from the cellar of the Eastern Conference back to the upper ranks where they deserve to be. That's what you think you would look for in qualifications for a coach. Someone who's been around the block, a little experienced, held in high standing, someone trying to get back into coaching, maybe just waiting for the call. A guy like that. Defensive leanings, that works okay. Tell you one coach is on the market, just won a championship 2 years ago, Frank Vogel. Is he the guy for KD and Kyrie when he wasn't the guy for LeBron and AD? Listen, I'm not saying all that. But respected for the most part, yes. Defensive minded, absolutely. Championship experience, you betcha. All of that's in his favor. So surely the Brooklyn Nets went for a coach like Frank Vogel, right? Because that would make some sense in terms of where they are, where they want to be, and what they want to avoid, which is more needless media, just chaos around them, right? Well, no. That's not what happened. According to ESPN, sources say the Nets are moving towards hiring Ime Udoka as head coach. That's right. The Brooklyn Nets are finalizing a deal to hire suspended Boston Celtics coach Ime Udoka. And a formal agreement is expected to be reached as soon as, today. We'll see about it. That is wild. That is wild to me. Boston is not requiring draft compensation from Brooklyn to hire Udoka, which makes sense because let's not forget why Udoka was suspended to begin with. For the whole season, I might add. For an improper relationship with a subordinate before training camp. So, Boston basically like, hey, take him. He ain't our problem anymore. We don't want nothing. You taking him is reward enough for us. That's basically what it's coming off as, right? Brooklyn is just undaunted. They're going to move on with it, which I again, surprised. Again, Boston sources say never plan to stand in the way of Udoka accepting another coaching job because Boston's like, hey, you messed up over here, and what you did was egregious, from what I've heard. Still ongoing investigation, but not cool. If you're suspended for the entire year, that means, listen, like, you messed up, buddy. But here, go on to somewhere else where you don't have to face the consequences of your actions, because that's fine. And yes, I get it. Udoka has had a long history with Nets general manager Sean Marks from back when they worked together with the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, Udoka was an assistant for one season under Nash back in 2020-2021 before he went to the Celtics. And according to the Nets, which, there you go, I think that says enough. The Nets have been vetting the circumstances around Udoka's suspension and, get this, believe he can tighten up the league's 29th ranked defensive team and command leadership in a difficult locker room. Let me read that again for you. Okay, ready? The Nets have been vetting the circumstances around Udoka's suspension. Great, got that. They've been really looking into it. And believe he can tighten up the league's 29th ranked defensive team and command leadership in a difficult locker room. Let's put those two together. Oh, they don't go together? Vetting his circumstances and tightening up the league's 29th ranked defense. Circumstances for improper relationship. League's 29th defense. Brooklyn Nets. What are you to do? This is what they've decided to do. I'm just lost. The report goes on to say the independent law firm probe into Udoka found that he used crude language in his dialogue with the female subordinate before the start of an improper workplace relationship with the woman, an element that significantly factored into the severity of his suspension. Those investigative findings, which described verbiage on Udoka's part that was deemed especially concerning coming from a workplace superior, contributed to what was an unlikely pathway to his reinstatement as Celtics coach in 2023. The power dynamic associated with the superior's improper relationship with the staff member was the primary finding and policy violation cited in the law firm's report, which was commissioned by the Celtics and completed in September. And end quote on all that. Somehow Brooklyn looks at that and says, yes, that's exactly what we need. Let's bring him over. Now, this was before the Nets capped off just a straight-up chaotic day by blowing the lead to the Bulls, with Kyrie Irving putting together just 4 points. Now, is it the stuff from off the court that is coming into play for Kyrie? Is it the Bulls' lockdown defense? Surely not. Kyrie, 23 points per game score, entered Tuesday averaging 30 points per game. On Tuesday, shot 2 for 12. And guess what? Because of his initial comments from his media mishaps and his verbal sparring match with ESPN's Nick Friedel, we won't hear about why he struggled because the Nets have basically hid him from the media. This is the second straight day of doing so in an effort to, quote-unquote, let him simmer down. Now, I didn't say that. Simmer down? This ain't a pot on the stove. Who's simmering? This is Sean Marks' words. Straight from his mouth. Quote, he did not do media last night. He's not going to do media tonight. We don't want to cause more fuss right now with more interaction with people. Let's let him simmer down. Let cooler minds prevail. All right. All I'm saying is just a rough game. Just a rough game altogether. Rough season for Brooklyn. Right now, the on-court team looks much like the chaos outside of it. Just unpredictable, and however you slice it, a straight-up mess. And the sad thing is, the Nets start off really hot. They had a decent halftime lead. Kevin Durant was their guy really carrying their weight. And they extended a little bit into the third quarter, and the Bulls just kept hanging around. In the fourth quarter, started just pressing on the gas. Started with a 17-2 run, and then outscored the Nets 31-19 in the final quarter, as Zach LaVine, like I said, just torched a defense that, to be fair, had not been capable of stopping anyone before that. Outscored the Nets by himself with 20 points. What did Ben Simmons do? Nothing, because I told you he was hobbled. He watched from the bench with what the Nets have described as knee soreness. So, it's been bad. But also, like I mentioned, if he was playing, Ben Simmons wasn't going to provide the firepower that Brooklyn needs right now. Because he's only averaging 6 points per game on 5.7 field goal attempts. And their defense? Yes, dirt poor. 29th out of 30th through 7 games. Guess how many Simmons has played? 6 of them. So even though Simmons is a defensive-minded player, you're really not getting the type of production that you need from him on both ends. So I'm kind of bouncing all the way around here. Only guy who is not a whole lot to talk about is Kevin Durant. Part of that is because he made all his noise during the offseason with the trade request and the rescinded trade request. For the season, 34 points per game, or 32 points per game, 52% from the field, 34% from 3, 5 boards, 4 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. KD, doing a lot, age 34, but Father Time is undefeated. And just like we saw, we'll get to that in a little bit here, in LA with LeBron, KD could always put these numbers, but normally that means his team's in a very good position to win, not hopelessly out of it. And right now, I'm not saying they're not out of it, but I'm not saying they're not out of it. Do with that information what you will. Let's go to the rest of this year and the week 2 takeaways. Kind of do a little bit of a recap of the NBA standings and where we are. So, if you would have told me, in fact, let me just tell you what I had as my Western Conference standings, my top 5. The Los Angeles Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the Denver Nuggets, and the New Orleans Pelicans. That's right. Number 1 was the Clippers, 2 the Warriors, 3 the Suns, 4 the Nuggets, and 5 the Pelicans. I was only right on 1 of those 5. And it was number 5, the Pelicans, who sit at 5th right now. The Suns, I had as my number 7th team. Don't know why, by the way. I really leaned into some off-court turmoil that really doesn't seem to exist with a well-oiled offensive and defensive machine that Phoenix has been, who are 6-1 now, having won their last 5-0 at home. That was crazy of me. So they're number 1. Number 2 might surprise all of us, if we didn't know, is the Portland Trailblazers, who are 5-1. They were up there in my number 12 ranked team, but they're number 2 here. Number 3, who I could have swore was going to be 13th or 14th, the Utah Jazz. That's right, Utah Jazz are 6-2. Lauri Markkanen playing out of his mind, but it's so much more. Malik Beasley shooting a 3 at a high clip. Jordan Clarkson bringing some great offensive firepower. Off the bench, Colin Sexton being young bull. Surprising, but there they are at 3rd. Number 4, my number 14th team, the San Antonio Spurs. That's right, 2 teams I thought were going to be in the cellar of the Western Conference are 3 and 4 respectively at the top of the West. Now, do I expect San Antonio to last long there? Not really, but then I guess you could say the same for Utah as well. But right now, that's where they are. And number 5, the Pelicans. To continue on, number 6, the Nuggets, 7, the Grizzlies, 8, the Thunder, 9, the Timberwolves, 10, the Mavericks, 11, the Clippers, 12, the Warriors, 13, the Kings, 14, the Lakers, and 15, the Rockets. And the Rockets are probably the only certain thing I had, which is hilarious. Had them as 15th, and they're currently sitting 15th. The West right now is wacky. That is my one takeaway right now. Outside the Phoenix Suns, who, again, I was being bold in thinking that they wouldn't be among the upper echelon of the West. Now I'm looking insane, but I was thinking I was being bold. Every one of these teams, you didn't expect to see here. The Pelicans, I'd say it was safe to say between 5 and 6. But the Blazers, Jazz, Spurs, no. And if someone told you that, they're a liar. Unless they have the proof. Timestamp to prove it. So, I don't even know what to make head or tails of that. While on the other end of the spectrum, you look at teams like the Warriors, like the Clippers, who have really struggled to find their way. Clippers took a game winner from Paul George 2 nights ago over the Houston Rockets to end up with the record they have right now of 3-4, while the Warriors went down last night to the Miami Heat to fall to 3-5. And is their 3rd straight loss after losing to the Pistons and the Hornets. Yes, that's right, the Golden State Warriors going to Charlotte, Detroit, and Miami and losing all 3. By the way, Miami was without the services of Tyler Hero from early in the game after getting poked in the eye incidentally by Moses Moody. So they really had the work put on them by Jimmy Butler and Max Strus. I'm just saying. It's kind of funny. The Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, injury management so far, going to miss at least the next 6 games. Reggie Jackson looks out of it. Is it the arrival of John Wall that's putting him at unease? Is it just general malaise? I don't know. But all I do know is that when you watch a lot of Clippers basketball, you see a lot of both Jackson and Norman Powell chucking up jumpers all the time. Paul George just hasn't looked like himself. He's rounding into form. Maybe that big shot against the Rockets will kind of help him get back to playoff P early. I'm being a little funny there. But to be fair, he had a bounce back game against Houston. 35 points on 15-26 shooting, made half his threes, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 steals. That's the stat-stuffing Paul George that we know. Unfortunately for the year, although the numbers on the surface are okay, 21 points, 7 boards, just under 5 assists a game. He's shooting 43% from the field, pretty low. 31% from 3, that's not great. True shooting, pretty low. Even for a guy who takes tough contested jumpers like Paul George is prone to do, true shooting's not great. 53.9, which is close to his 53 from last year, which will be his lowest in what looks like 8 years. So, don't really know what to make of that outside of, is it too much of an outsized role in the offense he has to carry? Is it just him trying to find his form and not settle for tough shots? The Clippers right now are calling it easy right now. Hey, we got to play with more urgency, yes. But, I think they're looking at it like, hey, we don't have our guys all together. We have a deep team. We should be fine. Oh, the Lakers thought that last year. And no, I'm not comparing the Clippers to the Lakers like that. As a Lakers fan, I can get a little biased there. What I mean is, it can get late real early. And so, for the Clippers and the Warriors, I do find that interesting, although I'm confident both teams will bounce back, both with health and just rounding into form. The Warriors, listen, they get a little bit more of a slack because you just won the championship last year. You know what it takes, and you're playing a lot more of your younger players, rotation-level minutes that didn't have to play last year. Last year was Gary Payton II, Nemanja Bjelica, and Otto Porter, who got a lot of minutes that are now going more to Jordan Poole, who for the most part played well, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and James Wiseman. And with those younger players assuming more minutes, there's going to be more mistakes. There's going to be more possessions lost and more time to gel with the starters and the core of the Warriors. That might lead to some losses. So I'm not too worried about that. Timberwolves, whole nother story. What an interesting team Minnesota is. Some days they look halfway decent. Other days they look like what I fear they would be, which is a team that tries to go bold on an experiment to do a Twin Towers lineup or something and end up falling well short. In this case, starting lineup struggles. Timberwolves fall back to 500. I don't understand what Minnesota is doing. I just think that their starting lineup isn't the best right now. And yeah, you're not changing Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. So you're really looking at your 3 perimeter players. That's D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Jaden McDaniels. I'll tell you right now, Jaden McDaniels he's not playing the 3 the way you would hope that he would. And by that I mean he's barely taking outside shots at all. Not that he's shooting them well if he was, right? He's shooting 30% from 3. But get this, on just 2.9 attempts per game. That is pitifully low. 7 shooting attempts a game in general, but just 2 of those being 3s. How are you spacing the floor for your big 2 when that is happening? I'll tell you, you're not. Just simple fact. And so I do think that's unfortunate there because it is limiting spacing for Cat and Gobert to operate from. D'Angelo Russell has not had the strongest of seasons up to this point so far. He just hasn't. 15 points and 6 assists, look okay. 40% from the field, 27% from 3, not great. Doesn't get to the line as is, and when he is shooting 78%, not super great either. Anthony Edwards, I guess the best thing you say about Anthony Edwards, he's looking pretty much like last year. 23, 6 and 4. Taking just under 8 threes a game, shooting at a 34% clip. Pretty efficient from 2. Not getting the free throw line too much, but third on the team in terms of that, behind the 2 bigs in Towns and Gobert. Not shooting the free throws very well, 64%. But even then, that's not super great because you were expecting, I know I was, Anthony Edwards to take a huge leap. And that hasn't happened as of yet. So, unsure as to where that's going, but the Wolves need someone to step up in a major way. Towns and Gobert, numbers wise, look okay, but the court fit looks clunky. It does. You know, you see Towns find Gobert a lot on some high-low action, which I think is really interesting, but teams like Phoenix last night can decide, hey, we're just going to crown Anthony Towns, double team him, make things difficult. He's the only big with some offensive offensive dynamic that is more versatile than Gobert's, which is finishing around the rim, knowing that Towns can put the ball on the floor a little bit, knowing that Towns can shoot from range. We're going to make it difficult for him to get any type of offense and see who else can beat us. And going from the micro into the macro, the Wolves didn't have anyone that could do that. As Anthony Edwards kind of tried to get fire late in the game, but last night the Timberwolves did lose to the Suns 116 to 107. Gotta figure out what's going on here. Gotta figure out what's going on. Because right now, Minnesota having given up a haul, and it's very early. Very early. But let's just run through this one more time. They gave up their 2023 unprotected first, their 2025 and 2027 unprotected first, their 2029 top 5 protected first, their 2026 pick swap, the number 22nd pick in Walker Kessler, also Malik Beasley, also Patrick Beverley, also Jared Vanderbilt, and also Leandro Balmero, which Balmero's not a big factor. But all those other guys, with the exception of Walker Kessler, who's a rookie, solid rotation level players. All of that for Gobert. And yes, it's only been 8 games, but 4-4, playing a pretty soft schedule, not what the doctor ordered. Certainly not what Minnesota was hoping or expecting to be the case. I'm not going to go on and yell, doom and all of that, because it's too early to do that. And I'm the king of jumping on things too early and making bold proclamations, but I've been burned enough times that's not going to happen. Bottom line, I do think Minnesota has some issues to kind of work out, and I look forward to watching some of these games again to kind of articulate better what these issues may be and how Minnesota can bounce back. I do recommend the Dane Moore podcast. Dane does a great job of breaking down the Minnesota Timberwolves and the coverage there. And I think that it is a show that is beneficial for fans of the Timberwolves and also, getting that more in-depth coverage of the team. He also has a Britt Robeson, a writer in Minnesota on regularly, who writes some really good articles, and they have some good discussion on the Timberwolves. So I would definitely recommend checking that out, just for more context than what you're getting here right now. Like I said, in time, though, I hope to bring more. On the east side, we got to go to the east side. We're going to say the Lakers for a deeper show a little bit later, because the Lakers right now, they won their first game. As a Laker fan, I'm happy about it, but this team is a mess, and between Miles Turner talks and Russell Westbrook off the bench and, LeBron chasing Kareem and AD playing hobbled, there's too much to pack into a show that is already going pretty long here. Want to catch up on the week, but I still want to get y'all in and out. Not going to give y'all a 2-week show to make up for the 2 weeks that, Ramble has not been consistent here. But going to the NBA Eastern Conference, listen, I feel I was a little bit on board, a little bit more on the right track, a little bit more on board with what I had. Although Brooklyn not being in the top 5, not even the top 10, that's a little surprising. I had Philadelphia number 1, Brooklyn number 2, Boston number 3, and Milwaukee number 4. Actually, looking back, you might as well just take all of my predictions and throw them out. It's still early, but the Bucks right now are sitting pretty at number 1, the only undefeated team left in the NBA. Cleveland Cavaliers behind just a dominant stretch by Donovan Mitchell are number 2. Boston Celtics are number 3, which is the only one I had right again. The Toronto Raptors are number 4. The Atlanta Hawks 5. The 76ers are looking mighty like Minnesota at a 4-4 record. Then you have the Knicks, the Bulls, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Pacers, the Heat, and last and least, the Nets. I'm just kidding. The Pistons and Magic are there too. And honestly, I say last and least the Nets because the Pistons have showed a lot of fight these last couple of games. all season. If I'm being totally honest with you, and I've loved the way they've played between Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Bojan Bogdanovic, who just signed an extension for the Pistons. I'll take him through his age 35 season. Like, these guys have been just standout players, but Jalen Duren, before he got injured recently, was another solid contributor. And you can't forget Beef Stew out there, Isaiah Stewart. Like, the Pistons have some just guys who put their hard hat on and play good ball, and you love to see it. And the Magic are 1-7, but let's face it, Paolo Banchero is a straight up superstar. Guy puts 20 points together so easy. It's like he's slapping together sandwiches or doing this sleep. It's not even that hard. And I do feel like the Magic would be better if they had at least one decent point guard available right now, because sadly they do not. Jalen Suggs is going to return from that sprained ankle, but he's not playing major minutes as of yet. So, and even when he's coming off a rookie season that was honestly horrific, right? So it remains to be seen how he gets back together. Markelle Fultz still been out with that broken toe. His status of return is uncertain. Cole Anthony had that oblique injury. He's been out for a minute, and his status is uncertain. So if you don't have a point guard to really run the offense, you're going through some freaky, funky lineups, which I actually like, with Franz Wagner as your offensive initiator, or the rookie Paolo Banchero as your offensive initiator, sometimes RJ Hampton. Like, you've had a few different players there, but none of them are naturally point guards to get you into your offensive sets, and it shows. The growing pains of all of that is there, and I think that's a big reason why the Magic are 1-7. I mean, they went almost 7 minutes without scoring a point in their latest loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And mind you, Thunder are playing better. They definitely are, but you don't go that long without scoring a point against a team that isn't the most renowned in defense, at least with their young core. So I don't know. I think that's interesting just from where they stand. But looking at it, like I said, this NBA, so early, every team has played about 6 games or thereabouts, and it's crazy. Eastern Conference, a little more closer to what we expected, with Boston and Milwaukee being at the top. The Cavs have been playing surprisingly well. Raptors in the mix. But all these teams, I think, also show you the level of parity that exists right now in the association. You have 4 teams that maybe stand out. I'd say 5 that stand out above the rest. The Bucks are 6-0. The Suns are 6-1. The Cavs are 5-1. The Trailblazers are 5-1. The Jazz are 6-2. And the Celtics are 4-2. You even throw the Spurs in there, 5-2. Every other team has lost at least 2 to 3 games, or at least 3 to 4 games. You have 4 different teams with 4-3 or 4-4 records on the West, with the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Thunder, and the Wolves. Mavericks are 3-3. On the East, same thing. Raptors 4-3, Hawks 4-3, 76 4-4, Knicks 3-3, Bulls 4-4, Wizards 3-4, Hornets 3-4. Like, it's so good as a fan because you don't know what game's going to be a good matchup. You know, what game's going to go down to the wire, what team might catch another team slipping. You know, it's fun in that way. But at the same time, not one team has said, you know what, except for maybe Phoenix, I'm going to grab the bull by the horns, and you can't beat us because we're the best team in insert the conference, in insert the league, and that's just the way it's going to be. The Jazz right now have just been catching people slipping, and they've been playing really well. Inspired defense, good activity. Blazers, you can make the same point. The Bucks have been probably the only team, that's really been like that, because 6-0, they haven't lost. Phoenix did have a little bit of a letdown, but the Bucks have not lost at all. Anyway, I'm going to run through my last takes here, not only for posterity's sake, because I feel like most of these are probably going to be wrong, but just to give us a way to wrap up this show. My predictions for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Coach of the Year, and NBA Champions. Here we go, and we'll see how close or way off I am by the end of the year. So, for MVP, I'm already regretting this. And mind you, I'm not regretting this just because of the numbers, I'm not regretting this because of the numbers, rather, because the numbers aren't bad for this player that I'm about to mention. But just the optics of him staying healthy and really being able to give an MVP type performance while other players are also playing at a high level, I am starting to second guess myself on. That player is Anthony Davis. Yep, that's right. I have Anthony Davis as my pick for MVP. With a caveat, I said in parentheses, if healthy. If not, I will go for Luka Doncic. Now, let's talk about Anthony Davis just for a second, because like I said, his numbers aren't bad at all if we look at them. Well, they are if you're talking about shooting from three. 23 points per game, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. Shooting in the low 50s, so that's not super great from the field. Shooting in the low teens from three. That's not going to do it, right? But even worse, I think he's had so many games now that he's had to battle hampered. Like he's had to play injured. And at some point, he's going to have to sit out a bunch of games. I just know this. And it's unfortunate that AD's a player has to deal with these types of recurring random injuries, whether it be a nagging back or something with the knee or whatever the case may be. But it is his cross to bear because what he had to deal with. And with that being the case, I do worry, okay, is he going to be able to play enough games at a high enough level to be under consideration? When I started the season and was just naive, I said absolutely. Looking back on it now, seeing him hobble over the last 3 out of 4 games, with one of those games being missed entirely because of his injury, I say maybe not. And that's why I go to Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, the Mavericks right now don't have the best of record, but we're talking about a guy averaging 36 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, shooting 50% from the field, which is not great, and 22% from 3, which is also not great. But being the single engine for Dallas that really just stirs the drink for them, makes things go, the total conductor, still can't be stopped, and you know a shooting range is going to come around. All that needs to come around with that is the play of the Mavericks to be more consistent and the upper echelon of the West for it to happen. We don't want a Russell Westbrook type MVP to be given to Luka Doncic. Not that I wouldn't mind it because the MVP is the MVP, but only for then players to just, go after that person and badmouth them when their career struggles later. Well, I'm sorry, am I getting too personal with the current player? Yes, I am. All right. Defense player of the year, I had Draymond Green. As of right now, no. But I did think he was going to have a bounce back year with him having a reoccurring name in the race for Defense Player of the Year, especially after all the drama with the Warriors and Jordan Poole really thought he would come back to form. And so far, it's been okay. Not someone I have there right now. I probably have Brook Lopez above Draymond Green as Defensive Player of the Year. But that's me. Most improved player, Anthony Edwards. So far, not looking too great. Anthony Edwards putting up Anthony Edwards numbers. It's just they're the exact same since last year. I was thinking he put up like 27, 5, and 5 or something. Not as of yet, and so for that, I put a pause on. Rookie of the Year had Jabari Smith Jr. I was very high on Jabari Smith Jr. last year in the draft process. Really thought he could be a standout, knockdown shooter, and so far, from 3, he has been. It's from anywhere else that's been the issue, not named the free throw line. So, not sure how I feel about that. Also, Paolo Banchero's just been a monster. And the way he's been playing, the Rookie of the Year won't even be close. And by that I mean it will not be my selection. So, that is my pick there. Sixth Man of the Year, Lonnie Walker. Can't work for 2 reasons. One, he's been starting. Coach Darvin Ham has put together a lineup that basically consists of Pat Beverly, Austin Reeves, Lonnie Walker, and LeBron and AD, with Russ coming off the bench. So Lonnie Walker just won't be a six-man enough to qualify, and also he's had an up-and-down year so far himself as well. Really come into form recently, but just something to point out. Coach of the Year, I had Tyronn Lue, with the dark horse being Darvin Ham if the Lakers won enough. Right now, they just won their first game against Denver. So, safe to say, Darvin Ham, maybe another time. Your time's coming, but not this year. As for Tyronn Lue, it's possible. Still could very well happen. But as of right now, the signs are not super great for Tyronn Lue and the Los Angeles Clippers to have him as Coach of the Year. So anyways, that was a show and a half. Almost 50 minutes. Welcome back, right? Like I said, we'll get some more continuity here, some more order. I just want to catch up, get back on the mic, get back up to speed here with Roundball Ramble, let y'all know where I've been at headspace-wise and where I'm at right now, what I hope to bring, coming back, weekdays, just bringing in content like that. And yeah, just getting back on the show. It's been a minute, It's not exactly like riding a bike. You got to get back on and get to moving and see how it comes and see how it flows, and this is going all sorts of places, so we're just going to call it a wrap right here. But please check out myself on Twitter at CorbinNBA. Check out Sports Ethos on Twitter at Sports Ethos Online, sportsethos.com. Ladies, gentlemen, stay safe. I love you. I'm Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. All right, y'all. Make it tell me what you do.